along with Jacob and Bryan.
Hi.
Woo! That was the
We
We allowed,
talked
smoothest
the
intro
intro.
yet.
are we allowed to
We
talk?
did
Now
think
you
we did.
are. You
Wait,
guys, you
what?
guys basically shut up the entire
Permission to
time.
speak.
Permission granted.
This
I
was
say.
we have the cams now, so we was like, yo, we're here. We're
Yeah.
still alive.
Yeah, visuals helps definitely. But anyways, welcome back once again to the podcast where we watch a new movie every single week. Funny enough, I don't even have a. This isn't even a segment. I don't know what the fuck this is. We just do movies, okay? I also have another segment going on called "Let's Talk About It," where pretty much I just talk anime with some of my anime friends.
Sounds kind of sellout.
From one of my discords. So be sure to check that out as well. We'll be doing a very interesting podcast with a very interesting topic.
Sounds like self-promotion, Jacob.
So y'all
A
should
little bit.
definitely go watch out for that. It is streamed every Wednesday
Hmm.
at around 6 p.m. So
I don't know about that one. This
go
ain't
ahead
cheap.
and check it out. We're gonna be doing yearly reviews plus talking about the new summer 2019 season. Yeah, I almost forgot what year it was.
Wow.
Anyways, so this week we watched The Forest of Firefly Lights. Shortest movie yet. Definitely interesting to say the least. It was a 45-minute, if you can even call it a movie. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and start like we normally do every single week with our thoughts and then discussion, and then we will rate this motherfucker. The next movie has already been picked because that is done every Thursday on this Twitch channel at around 6 to 8 p.m. So be sure to follow for that. It's wink, wink. And before we get started, this podcast is available on everything. Like, if it exists and it has podcasts, it's fucking on it. Okay, let's get started. So, what was it? Jacob went first last week. Okay, Bryan, you got to go.
Okay, I have some notes. Okay, these are my notes. I saw the ending a mile away, but it didn't ruin it. Obviously, we all knew that he was gonna die, right?
Yeah.
It was like, how many times can they risk the sort of touching before he, actually touches her? There was a bit of a curveball that it was, somebody else instead of her. I kind of was hoping, almost feel like it's a cheesy ending where maybe they actually get to bump nasties and swap gravy, and then that's how he fades away. But no, it's just him saving some dumb kids. So, which is more realistic though, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was out of reflex, and so it was good. It was kind of it kind of showed his true colors. Like he was out to generally help people. He was trying to prevent the kid from falling over. God forbid. So I feel like a lot of the show's potential, because it technically wasn't long. It actually had like 10 minutes of what I would say is amazing fucking songs at the ending, which I just feel like were almost squandered. Like, I feel like those songs could have been playing, and we could have had like 10 more minutes of like after of like sad scenes or something. Maybe when like she gets
Or like
old
even
or something.
visuals about like the tree spirit people or something like that.
Just something, right?
Like some
I
background or
listened to all the songs at the end, and they were all amazing. I actually sat through and just sat and looked at a nothing screen, and just listened to the music. I thought it was amazing. I wish it was longer. I felt like it was pretty. It felt like almost like an old, well-known, epic, sort of sad, famous poem. I don't know, or it's like story. Like everybody knows, like the Little Red Hen or something, just like everybody knows. But it felt good. I liked how she had the foresight to realize that she would eventually become too old for him. And I was kind of hoping for that, to be honest. Like I was almost hoping for a cheesy ending. I'll be honest. Like I kind of wanted it to be like Benjamin Button, almost like she gets too old for him eventually, and before she goes, he like visits her on a grave or something, and like he like touches her, and they sort of fade away together. I thought that would have been kind of, even though it's cheesy, that sort of would have been some kind of awesome closure. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is the one time I wish the movie did a trope, but it didn't, which is kind of what I was explaining before. And yeah, the ending was more realistic, and it was basically just an accident that he died. But I still would have wished for, a more, ironically, coming from me, it's a bit, be hypocritical, but I was hoping for more tropey sort of, she gets old and yeah. So all in all, though, I liked the movie a lot. But I don't know. I mean, I couldn't really call it a movie. It was more of an episode, and it was like all like you could have almost had like another half hour at least of this movie, and it could have been of all the surrounding characters. But it was like they condensed that down, shaved it off, and like all we got was their story. So I don't know.
Mhm.
I honestly like it was like condensed. We could have easily had more years of them growing together, more people involved, more characters, but it was like here you get this tiny little snippet. So that's it. Next.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like, yeah, it was good. It was like, I guess the same issues that I have is like, you don't really have any major character development. You don't really much about anybody in the forest. Like, even to like, that's why I even brought up that point about like some something that it tells the importance of those spirits in those in the forest, or and the connection to Jin, and so like just maybe something it gave us a little bit more that made me feel a little bit more connected. I just felt like there just wasn't enough, and I mean the connection between them was cool. It was kind of like a interesting transition between this friendship into like more of a romantic relationship. And so and it's interesting for me. I actually thought it was interesting. I kind of said to myself, I'm kind of glad it wasn't her that that killed him, you know what I mean? The only reason
Yeah.
being is because the way that the movie was going, like you did expect it, which I felt like I expected it was going to be something that she was going to do, and it was going to be on accident. You knew it was going to be an accident, right? Unless it was going to be they made it all the way to old age and then they left together or something like that. But it was very like one of those things that was like, okay, I am kind of relieved that it wasn't her, because then after the movie you didn't have this like burden of her feeling like she killed the person that she loved, whether it was she was in love or not. But then also it was like the movie did give us that moment where they got to actually embrace each other and have that moment together where they really wanted, and it wasn't cut short, I would say, which I at least appreciated about the movie. Because they did shave off a lot and they did skip over a lot of things and gloss over a few things, but it wasn't so bad that it was like you didn't really know what was going on. But it was still, the movie was like, I can't say it was like amazing. It definitely didn't leave me in tears. It definitely didn't do that, but it was one of those things that I was like, okay, this is like interesting, but I could see where you could have made this movie about 20 to 30 minutes longer, added just a little bit something else to make us to build something a little bit more. But again, it does feel like a poem. It's kind of like there's some, maybe there it's deeper than what we're seeing, because we've trimmed off so much of the stuff. It's harder to just see it. So, but I don't know, it was just, for me, it wasn't like the best movie I've ever seen, but it was definitely something that it was like, it was good. So
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna dive in real quick. Quick side note: I just realized why my OBS had become super shitty over the past year. It's because you open multiple browser windows. Anyways, I'll rant about that later. So the movie, like Brian, I like the way Brian described it. Honestly, the movie was kind of like a poem, right? Something that you watch.
There's like one message,
Yeah, it was pretty like a surreal experience. So I'm gonna be honest though, like the movie put me and Jacob to sleep, but not because it was boring. So in anime, there's a term for a certain like subgenre of show. It's called iyashike, iyasheki, iyashi something. I'm gonna say iyashike. I don't care what the fuck y'all say. Iyashike, and basically the term translates in Japanese to healing. And so these are types of shows that are their primary goal is to like relieve stress, kind of heal you, put you like in a better mood, and to kind of provide like an experience for you to relax you in general, right? And this show, or like this movie, completely does all of that stupid well. The visuals, for one, they're all pleasing. Like it was like looking at a children's color book. The sound effects were so fucking good. Like it actually sounded like you were in a forest. It actually sounded like you were somewhere like chilling and you know, just not really like it wasn't like you were watching through a window. It was almost like you were there as it was happening, because all the sounds were so realistic. It really like pulled you into the story, and you felt like super relaxed and mellow. And it was interesting because I saw a lot of comments that were saying that this was a movie that made them cry. And I was like, what? It made you cry? It made me feel good. Like it relaxed me and like gave me a good positive feeling. So overall, I think it absolutely killed it on that level. So I believe it achieved its intent. However, for like an actual movie with like some sort of like if I were to objectively look at it, I would say it's not that great. You really do have to just detach and go into a headspace where you're not really hyper analyzing the entire time, like I was doing for like probably the first half of the movie. Because then after that, once I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna relax and just let it go, I enjoyed it 1,000 times better, because like the whole time, like you're really thinking about a lot of the obvious things that you know would be apparent to someone when you're watching the movie. You know what I mean? Like like as far as the optics go, and like I said, we're giving like a very American perspective. Like it's kind of fucking weird that this, like, because what you think it is, it's a dude talking to a little girl, and then the little girl falls in love with him, you know, as she gets older, and it's like, that's kind of weird. And then apart from that, you know, how he died seems kind of stupid. You know what I mean? But hold on. I'm gonna clear up all these viewpoints. So, and then you have that.
I agree with the stupid part. I don't think that would. I mean, I think it's definitely interesting accident, but
yeah.
It helps that he's not aging, right? That's what kind of makes it less weird.
Yeah. Because, so he's kind of like, I'll explain in a sec. But and then apart from that, like the character, because we go through like a lot of time skips and we see them like interacting.
like once a year or whatever.
Yeah. I feel like the relationship dynamic to which how deep their bond went didn't really feel like super authentic, I guess. I don't know what I wanted, but I didn't feel too committed to the characters to where I fully was like, oh yeah, I'm totally for this for their like relationship, not as in like accepting it, but as in like believing it, you know, to a certain extent. But I mean, obviously it's a fucking supernatural, but because like when I see things like this, I think about other movies, like for example, I mean, obviously it's not fair to compare it, but like Spirited Away, right? It's a supernatural movie, and not to say that they have a relationship akin to this, but the interaction between spirit and human, right? It's done to the point where you see like this connection between the otherworldly and the reality, right? And I didn't really feel that as much with this movie in particular. But again, that wasn't the intent of the show. It was more so the intent was to like relax you and give you a visual experience, which it did do. But to go back to those previous two gripes, one, this is what I also explained to Jacob too, is that you cannot view the Gin, you cannot view him as like a normal human, because like he's a supernatural spirit, so he exists outside of humanity. So the way that time and most things are going to work for him are perceived very differently. And two,
it did say it was human though.
No. He was human, but he became.
Yeah, he was actually. So he died as a baby in the forest when he was left there, and then his spirit was left stuck in the forest because of that mask or something.
I kind of saw it slightly different. Like I felt like essentially a god hit pause button on his life, like and then it would like resume as the second he met and like touched a human. So I personally think he was human up to the moment he touched a human, and then he became the spirit, even though he said he was a spirit before.
Well, the only reason why
because all the other spirits could touch the humans, right?
Yes, some of them, but the
he
reason
was a special case.
No, but he couldn't touch her because she would break the magic that kept him.
Yeah, the
alive.
spell, the enchantment, and then he would become dead actually, like but like wisp off in the spirit form, so to speak, you know.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of things, and this is again getting into the technical, is that we don't know how long he's been a spirit for, so we don't know how, because like as someone like they say that like when it comes to immortality or like as you live in general, the older you get, the faster time goes by, right? And so your perception of things around you begin to skew because you don't really perceive um time around you as you people normally would. So that's why to a child, 5 minutes is a lot longer than 5 minutes to an adult, right?
Yeah.
So
I got the feeling that he had been alive in that forest for like at least 100 years, personally.
yeah, exactly. So he's probably
Yeah.
perceiving things a lot differently, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be fair to like categorize him strictly as human because he's a being that exists beyond beyond how we normally perceive things, you know? So
Mhm.
like the relationship, I'm more related it more towards like when someone, you know, has like affection for like a thing or like a place, you know? Because it wasn't necessarily that um the it seemed like the girl was more in love with the idea than the person, you know?
Mhm.
Because she wanted this whole experience to last forever, right? So sort of kind of like the Millennium Actress in a way, where this thing is unobtainable, but the journey of it is what both kept them going and gave them, I guess, life at the end of it, you know, allowed them to like continue on and pursue or like whatever they were journeying into, and giving them like I guess initiative, if that's would be the term for like for life. But apart from that though, the the whole thing for it was just more so just enjoying the journey that they had and getting to know each other and growing up, and her enjoying her summers and having like a really good childhood, you know what I mean? And then being able to move on from there and become an adult. But the second thing would be like how he died, which like I said, I thought it was kind of dumb with how he died. So the justification I gave for it is that he actually killed himself because had he still been alive, she would have never have moved on and
Yeah.
continued to live her life, because she had already admitted that she would
I was
try to
I
And
was
they were
continue
thinking
it.
talking
that.
about that, but right before that too, like him being gone or whatever.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about it like if she always came back, she was never gonna move on, and
Yeah.
she had already talked about it. Like she was planning on spending every season with him,
Mm-hmm.
and he wasn't exactly too happy about it, or he didn't seem sad, or he really didn't seem happy. I think he realized in that moment, like it would essentially just be using up her whole life, almost like how his life's just sort of used up.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he actually really did love her, then he should have like actually killed himself, and so that would have been a really cool scene that we could have gotten later
I
on.
think that is what happened, because
Mm,
he alluded early on, sometimes spirits blend in with the children, and it seemed
mhm.
like he was able to discern between who was human and who was a spirit. um so I don't know, I would say that, like, you know, he killed himself on
He seemed
purpose.
genuinely surprised, though.
Huh?
He seemed genuinely surprised.
I mean, he didn't seem too upset because he immediately
No, no,
goes,
I think he already had maybe was toying with the idea, like you said, but I don't think he had made his mind up completely. But when it happened, it was like, well, this is probably better sooner than later, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So, and I don't know. On a different note, I one of the ideas that I kind of hated and liked was that since you saw the ending coming from a mile away, you could sort of start experiencing the grief of it like right away. Like for me, I started feeling his death like the second they met. It was like as soon as he said, "As soon as I touch a human, I die," I just immediately knew what the movie was going to be. And I thought that would possibly ruin it, and it kind of did. But it was really hard for me to get happy or excited or whatever, because you were saying it's supposed to be a feels good moment. I felt bad the second I learned that, because I was already grieving for him being gone.
Yeah.
Like, because I could see, okay, so she's gonna come back here. They're gonna become friends. This is gonna be like her special friend, maybe even boyfriend. We'll see where this goes, right? But it was like either way, she's gonna lose someone really close to her, probably the closest person, because it seems like she's not really close to anybody else. And yeah, and so it was like knowing a train wreck was gonna happen. I'm forced to watch it in slow motion, so it was an interestingly different kind of pain. Like I feel like if it had all happened at once and the anime had been a little bit better and a little bit longer, you might have gotten me to cry. But the problem was, you know, I hate to make this like analogy, but it reminded me of when my mom got cancer. Right, we knew really early on that she was not gonna make it. But it was like one of the worst things because it was just like I was the only one who cried like in the moment when she told us. Everybody else was too busy denying it, and then they cried when she actually died, right? But I wasn't crying when she actually died because I had already had like 2 months to deal with it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like the second she told me she wasn't gonna go for the 7th round of chemo, I knew oh, she's dead, right? So this is like similar for this. It was just like, oh fuck, okay, well like this guy's gonna die, right? So I was just sort of dealing with it from like minute 2 until it literally was over. And so that was kind of interesting. I don't know if it made it better or worse, but personally, I kind of liked maybe if we hadn't been told that that's what happens and he'd been keeping it a secret the whole time. And then we find out as he's fading away, but he didn't want to tell her, you know? And so maybe she thought, oh, he just doesn't like her because he's always like moving away from her. But no, he actually liked her a lot. He just didn't want to get faded away too soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then maybe he like somehow left a note behind. It was like, I don't want to take up your whole life.
I think those are all like I think it would have made it so much better, you know?
Yeah.
Like it would but the like I don't know if this is the right term, but it's like it would have added a necessary depth to the story.
Well, would have created it into a movie instead of just like a sad poem or something, right?
Short film,
yeah. This had like a message. It delivered the message, and I could almost hear this like in a nursery rhyme or something like being told to me. Like once upon a time, there was a little girl who's traveling in the forest and met a forest spirit. Like, I could pretend I'm getting read this story when I'm like a little kid or something, you know?
Yeah, and it's funny how you're describing everything because I'm starting to realize like I don't think I've talked with someone about this movie. There's been like 5 or 6 different people. No one's had the exact same perception. You know, it was almost again more so like a poem. Like you kind of interpret it in the way that you view it to be the most appropriate. You know,
it was only really like 35 minutes long because it had 10 minutes of music at the end.
Yeah.
It's like literally just
like
an episode.
was when I think it was 39. I remember we rewinded or something. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, I respect it a lot, but
like really tried to force a really sad feeling.
Yeah.
So I don't know about all the happy shit because that was some of the music was amazing. It was really sad though.
Yeah, I think it's because like I don't know if Jacob feels the same way, but from early on, like you said, you kind of already knew what was gonna happen and where things would be. So I got more invested in the journey rather than the end result of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, because of how good the journey was, like I didn't really hate the ending. You know, like those gripes that I give, like they're there, but just the whole experience of it was the more pleasurable thing about it. It's almost uncharacteristic to call this even a movie, I guess, but I mean in essence it is. But I don't know, Jacob, any other thoughts?
Well, I think for me, like I guess it like wasn't like I do agree with the fact that I felt like it was introduced way too early, but I don't know if it was way too early because it was introduced while she was a child, and I was thinking back to the scene where he ends up like tripping and falling or something like that, and she tries to she goes to like catch him or goes to save him, and then she like catches herself realizing that, and then like or whatever it was, and then it turned into like and then she starts crying, right? And I think that was one of those moments where it was like she realized the magnitude of what was actually happening. Because when you like say it, it's like, oh, like it's this person, like because you could just assume that the person said, like if it's an adult, they're just telling this kid, hey, you're not allowed to touch me because I'll disappear because it's a little kid. You know, you're just trying to be like cool with the little kid or whatever. Like, because you don't really know too much. But that the whole thing, like as you go along, for me, it's like you knew that that's how he's gonna go. But I thought it was interesting though, for me, as like I have like people in my life that I try to be a mentor to or something like that. And I would like to have them be strong enough to go through that, right? Because in reality, all relationships end in a tragedy, and so with that idea, it's like you don't not do it because of that. You do it anyway. And so I mean that's again, it's like speaking of Ben's different views, it's like that's how I viewed it. It was like those moments where you realized the magnitude of what's actually here and what's happening, and then you want to keep that for as long as you have it, and you appreciate it when it's gone, and yeah, because it's all, you never know when that's exactly going to be. So it's such an interesting way to there's such an interesting point of views for sure in this. It's where it's a movie that, again, it's definitely, I can definitely equate it to a poem as opposed to because it's not really, I wouldn't say it's an anime, excuse me, movie, but it's definitely like a short experience of something, and it can definitely be open for interpretation. But again, we critique on the storytelling as well. So, but yeah, it's cool. It's I mean the movie's good though. You know, it's
I
definitely
mean,
not
it's
bad.
sort of an interesting concept if two different people can find it as a sort of like a depressing, sad movie or a really uplifting, positive movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's sort of interesting in its own right. So I kind of have to give it credit there,
yeah.
just for being different for different people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's something like you like I said, you can't really analyze the movie like too hyper specific because you get a lot hung up on a lot of the technicalities and the
Yeah.
details of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I will say I like this a lot more than The Girl That Lived Through Time, personally.
Yeah, me too.
I felt the overall, you know, world that they built and the intent behind the story was achieved way better than that movie did. Granted, that movie obviously had like insane visuals and
Mm-hmm.
like it did a lot of like really cool things, but I feel like the one thing, you know, aside from like pacing, is my biggest gripe. You know, what was the intent behind, you know, this movie that they made? And I feel like the person who did this was killed it a lot, did it a lot better than the Left Through Time did. You know, like the Left Through Time was held back by the technicalities of time travel, whereas this one um, left a lot of things open, but they left the things open that didn't necessarily need technical explanation for. You
Yeah.
know, they kept it light when it needed to be, and they only really explained the big details. You know, because if you wanted, you could be like an uppity, like, oh well, where's the mountain god and how powerful actually is he? Can he really do that? Why hasn't he done that to anyone else? And what are all these, you know what I mean? Like you could really go
Yeah.
in on it like that, but the movie allows itself to not require you to have that thought come across your mind, you know, because
Yeah, we don't even care about the mountain god.
exactly, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a subtlety in the background that adds to the overall experience of the show. You know what I mean? It's more so just a device that drives the story forward and adds
I mean,
explanation.
I personally like when shows don't necessarily show us for no reason at all, like the most powerful person, like just to show you it. Like I always kind of sort of hated that, right? Like if you give us a main character, we shouldn't just be given a bunch of information that the main character doesn't have. Like sometimes I like to just experience the story through the main character
Hmm.
without like meta gaming. You know, like if we're in
Mm-hmm.
D&D, this would be meta gaming. Like we're not supposed to know about this guy unless they actually run into him. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
This
Right.
is like the mountain god after all, right? Like this sounds like the big baddie, the big guy, the guy in charge.
Yeah, I will say they did kind of um they like got me halfway through the movie because I thought the movie was gonna go in an entirely different direction. When the guy said it would be so cold that even the snow god or even the mountain god would freeze, and so
Mm.
my thought was gonna be like, oh, the mountain god, something's gonna happen to him, and then that's gonna like break the magic on him, and he's gonna become like weaker, and then fade
Oh,
away in the winter. I thought that's what was gonna happen.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah.
You know, so
I actually missed that.
I think it
But
would have made it. I think it would have made it a lot more tragic. Um, you know, again, defeating the purpose of the
it
short
would,
film.
yeah, I wouldn't have felt the
Yeah.
same for
Would have
sure.
been definitely a little bit more interesting, but you know,
should we rate it?
yeah, let's go for it. Go, Brian.
If it accomplished the exact message it was going for, then I would give it a 8.5. if it was trying to sell us on a complete package, like as a whole movie, I think I'd give it like a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe like a 6.5, because it wasn't,
Yeah.
obviously it didn't have any other characters. It wasn't trying to sell us, and I personally think that it was going for a particular message, and it did a pretty good job. I still think that it could have possibly nailed it, but it's like so hard to tell if what they were going for, and they give us just not enough to where it's like maybe they designed it perfectly. But I have to trust, kind of go with the middle route and go with 8.5.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Jacob.
I think for me, man, I think after like really talking about it, my original score before us all talking about it was this going to be a 7. The reason why is because I felt like the movie was just good. And again, and it's like, but to the point of if it is something that it was trying to go for message, or it was trying to be poetic, or was meant to be interpreted in an unlimited amount of ways, and that was all intentional, then this movie is definitely great, but it still could have had more. So I would say with everything we talked about, man, I would give it an 8, just right at an 8 is what I would say. I don't feel great about giving it like a 7.9, just because it was the audio visual was actually really good at times, and the audio especially, and so and then yeah, it was just a nice story. It left you feeling like there was closure at the end of it too. So that's something that at least was at least it left a pleasant taste in your mouth, I guess, at the end. So
Yeah. I would definitely give it, well, whatever I rated Left Through Time, I rate it 1 point higher than that. So I think I gave it like a 6.5. So this would be a 7.5 for me.
mhm.
Yeah, it's just that whole intent thing. Like that's what I mostly care about. And yeah, and it killed it. Like it, or if this was if we were watching short story movies, you know what I mean? Then I would give it like a lot higher rating, probably like a 8.5 or 9. But yeah, I mean, just as a film, yeah,
Yeah, if it was
7.5
just as a film,
would definitely be
like
that.
I'm trying to look at it really artistically,
Yeah.
Yeah,
as opposed to like a movie. Yeah.
it's hard because it doesn't follow the same.
I feel like it's like an emotion merchant. It's like selling an emotion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
And that
when
if
you
you,
watch when you watch one of those foreign films,
yeah,
all
they're
artsy.
like they don't like yeah they don't try to make it too much of sense, but they're really just trying to sell you like an intense emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
feel like those actually do have a place, but it's so hard to grade them. So they're like in their own box, and so I guess we have to grade them on how well did it sell the emotion. But in this particular case, it's even more difficult because we both got different emotions out of it. And it
Mhm.
Yeah.
sounds like other people who've seen this get different emotions. So it's like, I guess, how well did it sell the happy emotion, or how well did it sell the sad emotion? Like,
Mhm.
I feel it.
it's kind of funny, but yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, I said better than Left Through Time. You can fight me on that. That was my homie in the chat.
I don't know if I'd agree with that, but
No, that's fine. That's fine. We all have our own shit tastes.
I mean, Left of Time had so many issues, but I still found it a really interesting movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
telling you, y'all gotta watch Steins Gate. Change your life.
Well, I
Um,
mean, just throw it on the list, dude.
yeah. Well, now that summer's coming up, I'm gonna have so much more time. But, yeah, drum roll, please.
Oh, yeah.
This is so dumb. All right, stop. Next movie is called Memories, 1995. Which it's
Memories?
okay. It's technically it's an anthology movie. There are it's three separate short films that
Hmm.
were released back to back and back. It was headed by the creator of Akira. I always forget his name. So the director oversaw, but the first one was wrote by Satoshi Kon, who's the guy that wrote Millennium Actress. Then the other two were written by I don't know who they were, but just two different people. So one is psychological, one is political, one is humor based. So
All right.
yeah, I have
So
a
are we
little.
gonna be reviewing
Right.
them like as a package, or each individually, so to speak?
Well, I mean, we'll probably do them as a package, but
Okay.
I mean, we haven't seen them yet, so we won't
True.
know. I mean, we
True.
might like we don't know which one's like. Let's say if like one sucks and the other two are great, or two suck and one's great. Like
Mhm.
I'll probably just dunk on whatever the ones suck and then just separate out the actual
Yeah,
good
yeah,
one.
I got you.
But okay, it's cool. Yeah, so that'll be it for this next week. Be sure to tune in on Wednesday for Let's Talk About It with myself, Bridget, and John. We'll be streaming it here on this, and it'll be going up as well along with this podcast on every streaming platform plus YouTube. If you want to join the movie club, go to kitsu.io and search either the Kitsu Anime Movie Club thing or my username Kid Benji, and you'll find it on my profile. You click and hit join. You can even suggest movies as well. Got some things I'm gonna be working out in the future, trying to expand the podcast. But appreciate everyone for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
See you later. Bye guys.